This Martinsville 2 NASCAR 2024 weekend betting recap edition of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with our promo code RACESGPN to get a 50% deposit bonus of up to $1,000. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHM.
Driver, start your engine!
Strap in and pull those belts up tight as the Sports Gambling Podcast Network presents the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
I'll wreck my mom to win a championship. I'll wreck your mom to win a championship.
With all the news and the best bets for your NASCAR weekend.
It refrains me from not beating the out of you right now because you asked me stupid questions. But since I'm on probation, I suppose that's improper to say as well. If you could talk about racing things, we could talk about racing things.
Now, here are your hosts, Rod Villagomez and Cody Zeeb.
Welcome into another episode of the NASCAR Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. He is Cody Zeeb.
Cash to minus 1,200. Rod has a bow tie. Let's fucking go. You got to be in the Discord to get in on the joke. But yes, cash that ticket, baby. Woo!
Yeah, sorry. Can't really see it with the microphone in the way, but yes, I am dressed for the occasion for the recap of Martinsville, which I wish, Cody, something had happened in that race because I feel like we don't have nothing to talk about today. So,
well, you know, the short track package, Rod, it's pretty boring. Not a lot going on. It's, you know, was a pretty uneventful weekend. Not much happened. So, yeah, I don't really know what we're going to talk about today. Probably be a short show. Holy shit, though, for real. Jesus. Like all three races, too. Action packed. We just got to jump right into it because we only have so much time and a lot to talk about. We're probably going to breeze over the bets, which is unfortunate because we had a fucking killer weekend, Rod. 4 for 4 calling the outrights, all three NASCAR races and the F1 Gambling Podcast. Hopefully you listened. But yes, to reference Rod's bow tie, Christopher Bell tweeted out 4 hours ago, Rod, just a couple of guys missing a bow tie. Picture of him and Joe Gibbs. Obviously a dig at, Chevy getting into the championship 4 there and Bell getting out. So where do we start, I guess?
Let's start at the beginning. I'll start on Sunday. Let's start on Sunday.
Should we get that first ad read out of the way quick and then
I almost feel like we can. So let me tell you right now, the college basketball is back. And if you're not ready, subscribe to the college basketball experience or the college experience for their daily picks podcast, breaking it all down. You definitely don't want to miss out on that, especially if you are a basketball fan, because guess what? We only got 1 week of racing left. So that means you got to turn your attention somewhere else for a couple of months. And that's a good place to do it. As always, we want to thank you for tuning in to this podcast. The bosses are starting to see the spike in 5-star reviews, and they're loving it. So if you could toss a little 5-star review our way, if you haven't already, on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, the bosses have noticed. They are liking it, and we want you to keep doing it. So prevent corporate gambling from taking over and toss us a little 5-star review. So here's where we start. As you alluded to, so the race on Sunday, there was fantastic racing all around. Yes. 500 laps of great
race too. I mean, it was great racing, bunch of different storylines. You never knew who was going to win. You didn't necessarily have one dominant car, like different strategies. The tire didn't come into play as much as they wanted it to, but it helped, right? Like great race, especially when you compare it to what we've seen from short tracks lately. And all the remarks are the short track package and this and that, like, good race. You were able to pass. Things were going on and happening. So, yeah, great race from that aspect.
Indeed. So we see Brad Keselowski lead 170 laps. We see Chase Elliott lead 129 laps. We see Kyle Larson lead 71 laps. We see William Byron lead 51 laps. But in the end, Cody, none of that matters because in 2 corners, the whole narrative of the entire race changes as Ryan Blaney locks himself into the championship from under the cut line. Hail Mary shot. Oh, I'm sorry. We're not allowed to say that. A shot at the dark that Ryan Blaney dude, that guy was a freaking rocket ship all day long. Came from 14th to win this race. He knew what he needed to do, made the right calls all day long, lost a couple of spots on pit road, but battled back all the way through. So let's first start off, Cody, by congratulating Ryan Blaney on a fantastic run into the championship four.
Poor Ryan Blaney just getting overlooked after all this. It was a great run. I mean, he was probably the car you could say was the fastest on the day. I mean, he was just good, and you could tell by he was trying to pass Keselowski on the top because he was so fast. Like it was just. Yeah, he was good. Obviously, they had some mistakes, recovered, was able to get it done. Shout out to him defending his title. Penske, Rod, you think of who's the best team in the garage, right? Hendrick, Gibbs, no, it's Team Penske. They won 2 consecutive championships. 2 of the 4 4 drivers are Team Penske. I mean, this team, they just know, they don't know. It starts out slow. They don't always hit, but when they turn it on, holy shit, they turn it on. It's going to be scary for a lot of people next week, which we'll get into later, of course. But yeah, shout out to Ryan Blaney. He had to win essentially, right? Probably wasn't going to be pointing his way in. But yeah, and TK saying, seemed pissed off after missing out last week. Absolutely fucking was. And
that was my handicap on it too. Yep. I told you he was going to be a pissed off Ryan Blaney running for the championship.
I don't want to spoil tomorrow's show, Rod, but when I give out Christopher Bell to win the race, it's going to be the same exact narrative because that's what's going to happen this week. But that'll be for tomorrow's show. But yeah, shout out to him. He's back to defend his title, right, in the championship 4. Got it done when they needed to. So yeah, congrats to Ryan Blaney.
Jessica checking in saying, what's up? Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon, Jessica. Walter was in the chat early. What's up, guys? Who do you got in the championship? First and foremost, Walter, congrats on that ticket. That was a solid hit for you.
He's been cashing pretty good here lately.
He really has, man. Yep. And then, who you got in the championship?
We got the rest of the week for that.
You know the drill.
I mean, Tyler. I called Tyler Reddick almost a year ago, so and I definitely have him.
Logano,
Rod called Logano around the same time, so we already have those tickets going in. But you have to diversify your portfolio, so we'll talk about all that tomorrow.
We will talk about that tomorrow. All right, listen. So here's the thing. I'm going to take the first break now because I want to start getting into what happened in those last couple of corners. And I want to give ourselves a good 20 minutes or so to talk about it because we're going to need that. So we'll step away real quick, come back and talk about the end of the Cup Series Martinsville race. But in the meantime, let me tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the biggest menus for all of sports. It's NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NBA, NASCAR, and so much more. You can also use a special boosts on all flex entries. I'm giving you tons of Underdog Fantasy plays, and so is Cody at the end of the week, so make sure you're tuning in for those. In the meantime, as many of you have already done, and listen, many of you guys are cashing big on these. Sign up right now with our promo code RACESGPN to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code RACESGPN. So let me set the scene, all right? As we come to the close of the race, there's about 10, 15 laps left. There's a little intrigue. There's William Byron knowing that he can only lose one more spot if he wants to maintain his position in the championship 4. There's Christopher Bell, who's gone a lap down after having just a complete trashy day. Wackiness ensues. All of a sudden, William Byron's holding serve. Christopher Bell rides the wall and ends up getting the wrong end of a decision.
Is that what he did, Rob? Did he ride the wall?
Well, let's get it. We'll talk about that. But I need to set the scene first before we start to break it all down. So Christopher Bell gets the, I don't want to say wrong because there's the right or wrong is kind of irrelevant. He got the negative side of the decision from NASCAR at the end of the day, whether or not he was going to be that final car or William Byron. Ended up being William Byron. And all hell has broken loose over the last 24 hours trying to dissect each and every bit of this, especially in the Discord. If you're not in there already, this is a fun conversation going on in the Discord.
Yeah, absolutely. This is an interesting. The whole entire thing is interesting, right? So you go back and there's also the other things that went on here. You had the 3-in-1 car clearly playing defense. Don't let anybody pass the 24. Don't pass the 24. When you say, You'd think, Rod, the 3-car would figure it out. Didn't they just have their spotter suspended a few weeks ago for saying, wreck him, wreck him, wreck him? Maybe be careful what you say on the radio. Huh? How about that? But when you say, does the one know the plan? Boy, really, we're digging deep into the code words here. What could the plan possibly be, Rod? So there's that from Team Chevy. Bubba Wallace has a tire going down. Maybe he did have a tire going down. Rod, who knows? Did he have a tire going down? Probably not, right? But something was wrong with the car, whatever. Loses a spot to Bell conveniently. So really, I think that's a wash, right? Both teams, Team Chevy and Team Toyota, seem to have had shenanigans in there. I do think that NASCAR will look into that and heavily fine all three of those teams. Mm-hmm. They set up precedents a few years ago. It will not affect the Final Four. Chase Briscoe moved on at the Roval because Cole Custer's stunt. Custer was fined $100,000. His crew chief was fined $100,000. His crew chief was suspended indefinitely. I think we see penalties come down for all three of those teams. But again, I don't know that any of that. I guess I was going to say I don't know that any of it changed the outcome, but Byron likely would have lost 3, 4, 5 spots, and then this wouldn't have even been an conversation. So I guess it did change the outcome. But the same thing happened on the other side with Toyota, so I think it does wash itself out. So there's that part of it. The wall riding part of things, I don't think that it was Christopher Bell's intention to go Ross Chastain on the last lap because, Rod, they know that it's not allowed. Technically, the rule does not say you can't ride the wall, but after this happened in 2022, the teams and drivers all got together, according to Denny Hamlin. Most of the drivers were in favor of, hey, we need to have a rule against this. So they put in the rule, as NASCAR often does, of, hey, we're going to outlaw things that we find, and they word it to where they can manipulate it however they want to, right? But unsafe. And it is unsafe, right? Because of a lot of factors. But anyways, so I don't think Bell had any intention to do it. He was pushing too hard. Maybe he wasn't fully aware of his situation. He didn't even need to pass Bubba Wallace, but he did. And then he got squirrely. Then he started to go towards the wall, and I think he thought, oh, fuck, shit, God damn it, go. And he just mashed it and hits the wall and goes off of it. And I think Steve Letart's analogy was really good on the broadcast while we were in that 27-minute period waiting for NASCAR to decide, right? The football player doesn't intend to step out of bounds when he catches the ball. But if he does step out of bounds, the catch doesn't count, right? And I know our guy Shandy was in the chat, the Discord, saying, well, it's not a black and white rule like the NFL, but have you ever watched the NFL, Rod? Do you know what a catch is? I don't know what a catch is. It ain't black and white in the NFL, I tell you that. So I think that he got put in that situation. It was like, fuck, and he just did it. It wasn't as long. It wasn't, a 4-second faster lap, whatever the hell Chastain had. But he still clearly broke the rule, the spirit of the rule, the intention of the rule, whatever else you want to say. So I think that NASCAR probably had to enforce the rule. I will say I don't really have a huge opinion one way or the other. I think that he did break the rule. And I think them punishing him by putting him to the end of the lead lap, as would be the punishment, is fine. And I think that that's a okay thing for them to do. But I think had they not done it, I wouldn't be upset either, because I think that you could argue and you could determine he didn't have the intention to, and how much does intent matter? Again, legal, that's the thing. In the legal jargon, you can always find a defense or whatever. I don't think that was his intention. Did it really make a difference? No, because he didn't really need to pass those cars. Because he lost spots, but he gained spots, whatever. But so I think you could come down on either side. And I don't know that you're wrong for thinking on either side of it, because I think that there's a case to be made for either side. But I'm not upset that this was the ruling, and I wouldn't have been upset the other way, because while there's a rule, it is a gray area a bit, I guess.
So Bob Pockris basically echoed that same sentiment in that he would have been fine either way of this one. So here's my take on it, okay? And I fully agree with you, Cody, that I don't think Christopher Bell meant to do this. Wasn't an intentional wall ride. There's no way. There's no way after that this is going to be the most scrutinized move that you ever made.
Well, and it's the same track. It's the same situation. It's not like we're at Darlington 3 weeks ago and he just sticks it to the wall and then you're like, well, was that kind of the same move? Like, you're not going to be able to get away with it here, because we made an entire rule based on what happened at this track in this situation for the same exact thing.
Yeah, and so again, in that instance, I don't think Christopher Bell, but the problem is that he did it. He stuck it, he hit the accelerator, and he continued to go, which by the letter of the law means that's the unsafe act right there. If he would have let off the gas, and I know that you're in a split-second decision. I know that there's no way on God's green earth that in the millisecond that it takes for you to realize I'm against the wall, I don't know what to do next. Oh, I'm going to hit the gas because that's instinctual. Then you do that, right? But the thing is that Bubba Wallace was not going to pass him. I don't think for 1 second that Bubba Wallace was going to just go past him. He was going to probably back off, let him keep going, whatever the thing happens. So if
that tire was going to drive Bubba right into the wall. It just went down, guys. It's straight. Took a hard right into the wall.
One lap when he oh no, I got a tire going down. No, Bubba, you've had this same tire on for the last 75, 80 laps. If it had gone down, it had gone down earlier. No debris, no nothing. There's no tire going down. Shut up. But anyways, so if Christopher Bell would have just let off the gas and just let himself bounce off the wall and come back onto the track, we would not be having this conversation right now. That is my 100% opinion on this one. Now, could he have made that decision in that split second? No, and he didn't. That's the problem. That's why he ended up getting caught for the unsafe act in the wall riding. That is black and white. That is like exactly what Cody said. When you step out of bounds, that NBC see it, zooms in on your foot, and it shows your toe right on the white line. That slow motion shot shows you hit, and then you can listen inside the car to you hitting the gas as you're riding the wall. That is documented proof. Now, I will say on the other end of that, Cody, because I think the Christopher Bell thing, we know that's a black and white decision. There is some gray in that they probably could have looked the other way and said, yeah, but he was tossed into the wall and he had to make a decision. That's here, neither nor there. Now, the other part of this is that moving blockade that you were talking about with the Chevys. We watch Formula One, Cody. We have heard over the radio.
We saw it in the sprint race.
In this sprint race.
You have to let him pass to win.
Switch positions. Like Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris switch positions. That there's no doubt that there's race manipulation going on.
Actively, yeah. It is funny how we view it differently on both sides. And that's probably the biggest gray area. What's not manipulating the race, right? Like any move you make throughout the race, you're changing the outcome of the race effective. Yeah, like you make a block, you put the bumper to somebody. There's a million things, like you deciding when to pit changes the outcome of the race. Like a lot of things are manipulating it, but I do think the Chevy thing, I think that Bubba probably, and I'm not saying that it's wrong for them to do that. I think you go help your teammates, and whether it's manufactured team, you help them however you can with whatever you can do to help them out. Why wouldn't you? And I think Bubba probably did it the right way, right? Well, if there's a tire going down, if you feel like there's a problem, is there really any way to prove that something wasn't wrong?
Nope.
There probably isn't. So he probably has a pretty good defense of, I'm telling you, something was wrong. I felt it. I know what I'm feeling. It was multiple laps of him going slower. It wasn't like he slowed down, let Bell go by, then picked up the speed again. But the Chastain Dillon thing, when you're saying on the radio, he knows the plan, right? Like, what kind of plan are we talking about here? I mean, you got to make it just not so obvious. So I do think, at least for the 1 and 3, there will be penalties. The 23, I think there potentially could be something that could be challenged and overturned potentially more successfully because it's not so clear and obvious. But yeah, it is funny how it's, from F1 to NASCAR, it's viewed completely differently. In F1, it's not only accepted, like that's what you should do, right? Is you should manipulate it to make sure that it's best for your team.
Keep your guy in DRS zone so that way he doesn't get overtaken by another car behind him. Like soften the cushion between somebody so they can hit DRS and not get overtaken. Like that's what I'm saying. Like and if you're Brad Keselowski behind them, wouldn't you just bulldoze over, because that's a couple spots for you, right? I mean, that doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things to your race in particular, but if you know that these guys are pulling those shenanigans in front of you, then they had plenty of opportunity, Brad Keselowski did, to put the bumper to either one of those guys, the 3 or the 1, and move them both over. Because you're right, William Byron was going to lose 3 or 4 spots. And, and then in the end, Christopher Bell did not need to ride the wall because he was tied and he would have gotten that spot anyways. So like, if he would have just allowed Bubba Wallace to kind of slow down and him to go past, because then that's less provable, right? If Bubba Wallace just kind of gently backs off and then Christopher Bell.
And with Bubba too in that position, like you see a known playoff car getting squirrely in front of you, you back out of it, you let him go. Like you don't want to affect the outcome of the race, right? We saw that with the 51 in Xfinity. He was going to be the lap car in the way, and he just pulled up out of the way. Like that's what you should do. I think JDK with some good points here too. Blaney pushing Logano to save gas a couple of weeks ago at Las Vegas. Like, how is that not manipulating it? Larson being told not to push somebody to win the race. Then everybody being mad at Parker Retzlaff for not manipulating the race. He got people mad at him for not manipulating the race previously at Daytona, right? They were mad that he did push the other team. So it's like, where's the line with that? Because it's going on, right? And we know that people are helping their manufacturers in different ways where they can and whatnot. So it's, I don't know. Just it's very, very gray area.
Two things could have prevented all of this, right? Christopher Bell having a better run. That was on him for not having a better day too, because you have a day like that in a championship race.
We talked about it, like just go get points, and then immediately spins out, and then just you got so far behind at that point that you were just trying to shovel it out so fast, and it bit you in the end because you couldn't just go out, and you didn't need to win the race. You were the only driver that didn't come into this needing to win. Like you just needed to point your way in, which should have been very possible, and you still dropped the ball. And so that definitely does come back on them at some point, because one better spot in the stage, and we're not talking about a tie anymore, right? You beat them by a point. So,
well, and then the second thing is William Byron could have come in and pit with everybody else, and then he could have moved his way up through the field, because him staying out, that was so questionable. Like, why are you gonna put your fate in the hands of old tires when you've seen what new tires have done on this track?
I'll tell you why, Rod. The 3 and 1 are gonna block the rest of the field for you.
Okay, so knowing that, I guess it doesn't really matter. But I mean, listen, he could have very easily taken it out of the hands of chance if he'd have come in for tires, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously looking back is always 50 or 20/20 vision of what you could have done or what you should have done. But yeah, it's boy, what an exciting race. And the whole short track thing, the playoff thing, that's a whole nother conversation. Should this be the playoff format? Are we awarding it properly?
That's off-season.
That's an off-season conversation that maybe we'll have a playoff format show or something at some point. But boy, no lack of excitement, I'll tell you that, Rod.
No. And really, to be honest with you, the whole taking 27 minutes to decide thing, I get it. I know.
I think that is great. Yeah. I think that was perfect, because we've asked that before, right? And we've said, why can't you just take time to decide? And that was the Austin Dillon thing, right? Why couldn't they have stopped right there, decided? Those drivers got out and stood there. They knew we've got to wait for a decision. 27 minutes is fine. That's enough time to properly review everything and decide. And I think that goes to show how important they took the decision of, we need to get this right, but you also need to leave the track today knowing who the final four are going to be. So props to NASCAR for that. Again, whether you agree with the call or you disagree with the call, I could go either way on it. But I think that it was really good to see them. Okay, everybody pause. We need to look at this. And they mentioned after the fact that was the only thing they focused on, right? They weren't worried about the other stuff, which they're going to be reviewing over the next couple of days. We'll likely hear on Wednesday what the penalties are, because I would assume there's going to be some. But yeah, I think that was props to NASCAR on that. Again, whether you agree with the call, disagree with the call, that's another conversation. I don't think either of us really feel strongly one way or the other. But props to them for taking the time and making the decision that they thought was correct, without rushing it, I suppose.
Yeah, well, and Andrew's saying they tried to manipulate the race too, and that they made it to where they couldn't get the wave around. I understand all of that. I get it. But here's the thing. There are 36 drivers on that track. Any one of them can do anything that we didn't know about over the course of 500 laps, right? This is just something that we saw. Like, we don't know what Toyota could have done. We don't know what anybody else.
We hear about it all the time. I was listening to Actions Detrimental earlier with Denny Hamlin, and they, Jared, I think it was, brought back up, well, you gave up a spot to Kyle Busch at the Roval, and you came on here and admitted, I just gave him the spot, like, because it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But is that manipulating the race because you gave him the spot? And so it's like there's so many gray areas with race manipulation that I don't know. I think it has to be sort of a clear and obvious thing, which
this probably
you could argue the 3 radio specifically is pretty clear and obvious. I think, again, the Bubba Wallace thing is not necessarily clear and obvious because was there a problem? And I think Andrew, too, that said it sounds like Bubba actually did have a problem. And whether he did or he didn't, it does sound like it. And that's the point, right? You have to make it believable, Rod. You got to sell it. And they did, I think, at least in my opinion. So the 3 car just fucking, they don't give a fuck. So
No, I don't think at this point any of those guys really do, because Trackhouse may not be a thing next year. And so Ross is like, I don't care. Look, I'm going out in a blaze of glory. So
what's going to happen to Trackhouse? They're not involved in the lawsuit, Rod.
That's true. I'm thinking Jordan. Anyways, there's so much going on. I don't know what's going on. My bow tie is too tight. All right, listen. So here's my final thoughts on the whole matter before we start to break down our bets, because obviously we could spend another 45 minutes talking about all this, and maybe we will over the off season, because we got plenty of time to talk about stuff like this over the off season. I will say this: there are millions of dollars riding on every decision that everybody makes in this sport. It is heightened to the point where nobody is happy because there's no way that you can draw a definitive line between what people want, what actually happens, what sponsors want, what teams want, what the sport wants, what the fans want. If election season has taught you nothing, nobody can be happy about anything. So this is another instance in which it doesn't matter that the race
something we can all be happy about, Rod, is the end of the text messages and phone calls. I don't care which side of the aisle you're on. That's the one thing we can all agree with politically is stop the fucking text messages and phone calls.
If we could come together as a country about something like that, we should be able to come together about all kinds of stuff. But yeah,
real quick too, while we're on the political thing, obviously we don't get political on the show, but I know Missouri and some other states, there is stuff out there for legal gambling. So
please,
if you don't vote for anything else, which you should, because it's your civic duty and all that stuff, but go fucking vote for that stuff, because your vote does really matter. So like, we're not going to tell you anything else to vote for, but that is the one thing on this show we will tell you. Go vote for that shit tomorrow, or if you already have with early voting and stuff, good. But get it done so you can get the legal gambling in your state if that's an option.
Yeah, put pressure on California to make the decision to do the right thing. But but anyway, so look, this is why, because in the Discord, and thank God for you guys in the Discord, very respectful, very clean, very well thought out and organized arguments on both sides of it, and everybody's keeping the gloves on. So I love you guys for being able to have intelligent conversations without resorting to calling people names and all the stuff that we see every damn day. But no, listen, I love you guys for that. So keep that going. But in the end, I will say this: there are multi-million-dollar decisions being made on all of these things. And so don't think for 1 second, right? And again, like we said, race manipulation is clear and obvious in Formula One. It goes on in NASCAR. We just don't see it to the extent that we see it in F1. And now that it's gotten brought out to light in a couple of instances like this, now all of a sudden you're having an opinion on it. And that's why you have to kind of take a step back and look at the whole picture before you start going off too much.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Then Andrew says, love the banter, and it's what's great about it. So
we love you, Andrew.
Yes. I know we've had a bunch of new people joining the Discord lately. If you're not over there, get over there. If you need help with it, hit us up and we'll help you get in over there.
Indeed. Okay, let's talk about some good stuff, because there was a lot of other good stuff, not just on the Cup side of it, but the Xfinity and the truck side of it, and we had some good tickets to cash as well. So we'll do all that, Cody. But first, let me tell you about Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me. Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Now you can track props in the Rhythm app too. Plus, Rhythm just launched their college basketball models. Started to build a model because I wanted to know how high K. Dotton's receiving total is going to be tonight with everybody on the receiving core down. And Rhythm's model just kind of laughed at me. I was like, whatever the number is, hammer the over. So I'm taking the over on K. Dotton's receiving yards thanks to Rhythm. You could do the same. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. We're also brought to you by BetUS. Bet with a business, BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. You can easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. U.S. players are always welcome. Love that those of you who were able to get in on Ryan Blaney's number earlier in the week with BetUS, they gave us 6-1, and then 7-1 to win the race. That was great numbers. BetUS is giving us tons of great numbers like that. So go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/BetUS. Promo code SGPN. They got to know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. Indeed. Ryan Blaney, the savior of the weekend for that one. And look, like you said, Cody, we picked all 3 outrights in all 3 series this week. What a glorious week it was to be alive. We killed it in the truck series, especially, and that's where it kicked off on Friday. Cody, that was one fantastic race. We knew the guy that was going to come down at the end of it with the checkered flag, and 187 laps out of 200 later, the man crossed the finish line first.
Yeah, nothing controversial in this race either, Rod. So that's good.
Nope.
Christian Eckes did take it home, Rod, and he was my first bet actually on the day. Had him top 3, -125. It was going to be the Christian Eckes show. Knew that right from the start, and boy, he came out, and it was the Christian Eckes show throughout the day. Obviously, that came into question late. Christian Eckes did what he had to do to win. What are we here to do, Rod? Are we here to win, or are we here to not win? I mean, go win the race. I don't think anything that Christian Eckes did was wrong.
So, okay, here's my point. And when it comes to Taylor would do the exact same thing. So Taylor and Eckes get into it at the end, and then, Christian takes the bumper and uses it, because that's what you have to do in these instances. There's no other way to do it other than use the bumper to get a little love tap going.
Yeah, and I understand why Taylor is frustrated, right? He raced him clean. He was able to make the pass cleanly, and then Eckes just uses the bumper. But and really look at it, and instead of Gray getting in, then Majeski gets in. Maybe you'd have rather had Gray in, probably. But I mean, you have the piano odds maybe in your favor with Majeski coming in. But it's I don't know. I feel like then all these fucking high and mighty people, like on the broadcast, Michael Waltrip, whose best friend was Dale Earnhardt, talking about with Phil Parsons, oh, this didn't happen in our day. Like, have you ever watched an old NASCAR race, Rod? This happened all the time. This is very normal, especially on a track like Martinsville. Mark Martin's in tweeting, where'd all the respect go? Like, what are you fucking... Mark Martin is known as a clean driver, right? But he's wrecked people to win before, Rod. Found a 3-second Google, found a video of it. I mean, it's not... And it happened in your day too, dude. What? Fucking old people. I'm telling you.
No, look,
but anyways,
that's aside. Look, JDK did make a good point. He ran one guy up the track. He one time, okay, 2 times, 3 times. But look,
he didn't wreck anybody.
No, he didn't.
He bumped him out of the way. What do you want him to do?
The bump and run is a thing. Like, that's what they call it. The bump and run.
Every time anybody gets within 30 car lengths of somebody at the end of the race, is he going to use the bumper? I think I've heard Rick Allen say, is he going to use the bumper, more than I've heard anybody else utter any phrase ever in the history of the world, Rod. How many times have you heard Rick Allen say, is he going to use the bumper? That's his catchphrase. Is he going to use the bump? Why do you think he says that, Rod?
Because people use the bumper.
Oh my God. I mean, he had the fastest truck throughout the night. Things were obviously not going his way near the end there. people kept getting around him, and he kept bumping him out of the way. Now, is he going to pay for that at Phoenix? Potentially, right? So people are probably going to race him differently. But he didn't. This wasn't Ty Gibbs spinning out Brandon Jones. I think that's a completely different thing. He bumped them and ran. It's literally called a bump and run. There's a name for it. I don't think what he did was wrong. I think, I don't know. The issue I had was when he ran him up the track after he used the bumper. Well, that's sort of the bump and run. You want to bump them up out of the way so you can run away before they get back to you, because otherwise they're going to use the bumper on you, because that's what we do on short tracks, Rod.
See, I don't know if it's because people watch races with their rose-colored glasses and that they think that this is like highway traffic where you have to, I'm signaling, I'm letting you in. I mean, again, these guys are racing vehicles that are almost identical in speed, in aerodynamics, and there's very little ways for you to be able to get an edge on it most times. Then you have to kind of use what you got. And like Cody said, if you've ever watched a race from way back in the day, man, it's not like they were all polite and like signaling out the window, "Hi, I'm passing, hang on."
Dale Earnhardt is known for roughing people up. And then he'll get out and give you the smile and say, "Oh, I was just trying to ruffle his feathers," right? And then it's like, we just give him a pass because it's like, "Oh, he was just trying to ruffle his feathers." Like, well, no, like he meant to fucking wreck him. He's playing it cool after that. I don't know. Bill McAnally pays him to go out and win races, not to go out and be friends with everybody and say, "Oh God, I'm sorry, Taylor. You could go ahead." Like, that's probably not why he's in the championship race. So I mean, again, what comes around goes around, and it did to Chandler Smith in the Xfinity race, which we'll get to. But anyways, all right, back to the bets, Rod. Christian Eckes top 3 -125. That was the first one on the day that cashed. But for you,
Tay over Tyler Ankrum. Yeah, so I had Taylor Gray over Tyler Ankrum, and this one, I mean, other than the end of the race when I thought maybe Taylor wasn't going to be able to finish, but he did finish in 4th, right? Tyler Ankrum finished in 8th, but what a run by Ankrum. Ankrum started in 23rd, just made the right moves all day long to finish inside of the top 10. So I was sweating this for a while because there were points there where I thought Ankrum was going to be the much faster truck at the end of the day. But thankfully, Taylor was able to stay ahead of the 18 for a better part of the day. And I mean, ultimately in the end it cashed, but boy, I tell you, with the way Tyler Ankrum was looking, if it wasn't for that last restart too, because I think Tyler was ahead of Taylor on that, or at least side by side, those guys were like this the whole last part of that race. So I almost thought he wasn't going to pull this out.
Yeah, it definitely was close. And then obviously, you end up with the Taylor Gray incident stuff there at the end, and you're like, "Oh God, don't spin out and lose this." Just to go back to the Eckes thing real quick. TK was saying this seemed tame to me. I think the negative response is more because he was safe for the final 4, so it was unnecessary, but it was necessary to win the race, right? So it wasn't completely unnecessary. And JDK, after the bump and run on Rhodes came back, was trying to pass on the outside. He just turned to Eckes. Okay, so you mad at Ryan Blaney because Blaney used SVG as a pawn into Byron, whose car never handled good the rest of the day, and almost cost him a chance at a Final 4 berth. Are you upset about that? Because Ryan Blaney was roughing everybody up on the way to get to the front in the Cup race. So should we be super mad at Ryan Blaney? Should everybody hate him next week? Cole Custer, I mean, he bumped some people. Should we be mad at him? Or maybe this happened to a bunch of people in all 3 races because it's Martinsville. So
they reinforced the front bumper for just that purpose, and the back bumpers. Like, that's part of the safety concerns that they were doing because they knew people were going to use the bumper to move other people. So, like, I don't get it. Anyways,
also shout out to Walter. He's always here to pump us up, Rob. Because we're the best in the industry. Your words, not ours, but we won't argue with you. I see things so differently after you guys explain certain situations. Well, that's what we're here for. So,
and that's just our point of view. Go find other ones.
Exactly. And TK saying, "Bet-wise, I'm super glad he did what it takes to win." Me too, TK. Okay, next up for me, Rod. I had Ben Rhodes. Luckily, when Christian Eckes used a bumper on him, it didn't knock him out of the top 5. Ben Rhodes top 5 plus 360. Cash it, baby. He finishes in second place. Ben Rhodes looked like he was maybe going to win this race at multiple points throughout the night. So this just felt like a Rhodes spot, and I was kicking myself. Why didn't I take his outright? I had the top 5. Obviously, he ends up in second. So all ends up working out pretty nicely. But yeah, at least appreciate the fact that my top fives didn't finish like 6th and 7th this week, Rod, because we've had a lot of those bad beats lately. But and especially when all the roughing up was, I'm just like, oh, please don't like cut a tire on Rhodes, and he's running top 5 throughout the second half of this race and then loses it. But fortunately, did not. So yeah, Ben Rhodes, top 5 at plus 360.
Yeah, and listen, honestly, if it weren't for that last set of cautions, like I think this race would have played out a hell of a lot different, obviously. But that last caution, where Grant Enfinger got taken out by Chase Purdy, that was one where everybody was just kind of like, ah, damn it, now we're reacting. Now what's going to happen? But I will say what wasn't in question most of the day, the Sanchez baby, top 5 truck plus 185, cash that bad boy as he finishes in 5th place. Boy, Lane Riggs made this too close for comfort as well, as did Corey Heim. Like, I don't know. Like, I was sweating this one because Sanchez was running very well almost all day long. And then that last restart, I was like, this is going to be where he does not finish inside of the top 5. But thankfully, Sanchez was Riggs was coming up just short of that one, boy. That one made me love and hate Riggs at the same time because I was like, good on Riggs. But if he passes the Sanchez for a top 5, I'm going to throw a brick through the screen. But in the end, that bet held up. Sanchez, top 5 truck, plus 185.
Yeah, I wasn't sure which way to go on Sanchez, but great call for you, Rod. This time we actually gave out a lot of top 5s and we hit them a lot of them.
I know, right?
So we had the top 5 pretty well nailed. I did have Tanner Gray, top 5 at 15-1. Big number. He'd been really good here. Ends up having to start at the back. But he sort of had come up through the field at points and then sort of didn't. Where did he? Yeah, he ended up in 29th because he did end up in one of the wrecks later on. But he was climbing through the field, and you're like, okay, things are looking pretty good here. But man, it felt like after having to start at the back, it was definitely going to be a tough road for Gray to get up there. Unfortunately, he did not. But Rod, I also gave out Chase Purdy, top 5, 12-1. Chase Purdy, man, he found a way to get it done. Comes home in 3rd place, and yeah, easily grabs this top 5 for us. So in a day when you have the winner outright at plus 290, but you can hit a top 5 at 12-1, that's pretty awesome. He had done it in the spring, so it's not like it was shocking to see him up there. It was pretty quiet, right? You didn't really hear from Purdy all day, and then you kind of looking at the end of the day, and you're like, oh shit, where did Purdy come from? And there he was, and he got it done for us.
Yeah, that literally was where did he come from, because he wasn't there at all. And then next thing you know, you look up and there's the 77. I was like, oh man, we're going to hit this Chase Purdy top 5, aren't we? And sure enough, thank God that he hung on for that one. 3rd place too. That's not like just creeped into it. That's full on top 5. But yeah, his top 3 number would have been so delicious for sure. Unlike Ty Majeski's top 3 number at plus 110. See, now this is where the better in me would get pissed off that Ty Majeski got used up there at the end, right? Because Christian Eckes cost me this one as well. And look, Ty Majeski was up there all day long. He was a top 3 truck for the better part of it, and then he wasn't. So the piano came in the form of the chrome horn, but you can't be mad about that. You really can't. That's racing, and that's what happens. And yeah, I mean, other than that, Ty Majeski could have cashed this bet, but he didn't. So no harm, no foul.
Just can't. I can't do Ty Majeski, Rod. On to the top forward bet. I did go with Lane Riggs at minus 120, Matt Crafton at 7-1. I also said, hey, we're going to be covered with Rhodes, right? We've got the top 5 number. He gets the top 5, takes home the top forward. You're covered there. That's what ends up happening. Finishes in 2nd place. But then it was Lane Riggs in 6th, was the next best forward. So obviously minus 120. You would have liked him to have beat Rhodes and still got the top 5. That would have been a nice way to go, but didn't happen, unfortunately. But yeah, Riggs was right there and in contention. Matt Crafton, 13th place run. I mean, I don't know that he was ever really much better than that kind of throughout the night. He started 16th, finished 13th, kind of all in that area the whole night. I don't know that he necessarily had a big shot, but I like the track record we'd seen here. He had a lot of experience, 41 career starts here, which is a ton. So even though we didn't cash either of these, still worked out because we had the protection with Rhodes.
Yeah, we sure did. And we had all kinds of protection all over the card. So we were definitely good there. But where we didn't have protection was Raja Caruth. That truck lift fell right the hell on all of us. Bounced into the wall on lap 49. And then that was the end of his day. Pitted twice and had to come in. So no part of this Raja Caruth part ever hit. And it's sad because for Raja Caruth, man, you wanted to see like what he had to do. He started 11th, so he was in the mix to be a fast truck, and then it's just it wasn't in the cards for him. He returned to the race a couple of laps after he tried to get going again and couldn't do it. So just a tough day for Raja. You can't predict that kind of thing, so we'll take it and we'll eat it.
Yep, one of those car lifts that fell over, Rod. It'll happen. But yeah, I mean, he just as soon as he had that early contact with the wall, then it was kind of like it was just shot at that point. So sucks that that's the way it goes down. Rod, what number does Christian Eckes drive?
The number 19 truck, by the way.
Oh, weird. Okay, crazy. I had the winning car bet, 10-19 to plus 115, because I told you Christian Eckes was going to win this race. Christian Eckes won the race. But Rod, we were covered with Taylor Gray, who was in fourth and potentially was going to win this race late, right? We were covered with Corey Heim, who didn't really show up as well as maybe he should have. Yeah, Christian Eckes got it done, and then that's really the only thing that matters at plus 115. Plus, we had that insurance. Had Gray won this race, we were going to cash this. If it had been a Heim night, we were going to cash this. So, yeah, it worked out well.
Indeed. What number does Ben Rhodes drive?
19? Oh, wait. No, 99.
What number does Chase Purdy drive?
77.
Oh yeah, both of those are 30 plus. They were the second and third cars. However, they did not win the race. So I had winning car number 30 plus. I mean, I was two cars away from it, but yeah, this is Christian Eckes' day. We knew it, but I was just saying if you wanted some coverage on a long shot outside, then that was the way to do it. Didn't work out. Oh well.
Yep, that's how it goes, Rod. Outrights, Christian Eckes plus 290. Said it was going to be an Eckes night. Sometimes you got to take the chalk, and sometimes it's just the way to go. This was pretty clear. It was Christian Eckes all night long. Obviously late, that became in question with all the other shenanigans, but he put the bumper to him, cashed these bets for us. So shout out to Christian for doing that. Grant Enfinger had him at 9-1. He ends up starting in the back after they have issues, but he drove all the way through the field with a 9th place finish. I think he kind of had what did he have some strategy late that was looking fairly decent, and you thought, maybe he would have a shot, but didn't matter anyways.
So Tanner actually they got into it. Let's see, Tanner got into trying to look at it here because I know Tanner got.
Yeah, he was late in one of those wrecks.
Yeah, he was.
But yeah, I had him at 100-1 again. He started in the back as well. So also gave out the 999 parlay, really big number, Rod. Unfortunately, no 9 cars won this weekend. So there is that.
Not a single 9 car dare there. Yeah, so I still can't find it, but that's all right. It doesn't matter. Oh, it was Johnny Sauter. Whatever, I don't care. All right, so I had
that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Well, I'm looking through the notes here and I'm trying to remember where it was, but it doesn't matter. All I'm seeing is Taylor Gray, and Taylor Gray is the one that got robbed. All right, so Dean Thompson makes contact with Tanner Gray entering turn 3 on lap 181, and then causes Brett Moffitt go on the wall. All right, that was the one that was. I had Tyler Ankrum. Talked about him in a second. He finished in 8th place after starting 23rd. That was a hell of a run. Makes me wonder what would have happened if he would have started closer to the front and been able to compete all day with the lead dogs. So 15-1 for an 8th place car or truck rather. I'll take that all day long. So
yeah. So that's the final 4, Rod. 2 Chevys, a Ford and a Toyota. Grant Enfinger, Christian Eckes, Ty Majeski, Corey Heim. They'll battle it out on, I believe that race is on Friday. Yes, it's on Friday evening. So it'll go under the lights there in Phoenix. And we'll break that down on Thursday, Rod. So make sure you come back and join us for that.
Indeed. There's no dodge in this one. I cry foul. The dodge check didn't clear, and there's no dodge in the championship 4. We must riot. All right, Cody, let's quickly go over our Xfinity card, which Eric Almirola, the 20 car, surprise, back in victory lane. I wonder
who could have saw that coming.
Yeah, I think we both had a hand in it. You got to the dock before I did to make it, though. But yeah, Eric Almirola wins this race. Congratulations. Obviously not a championship driver, but there are some surprises in the top 10 that we could talk about, but obviously we don't get top 10s in the Xfinity.
You know, it wasn't a surprise, Rod. Sheldon Creed over Sam Mayer, -120. Easy money. 3 for 3 the last 3 weeks. Hopefully they'll give it to us again next week. We can finish the season strong. Sheldon Creed finishes races. Sam Mayer doesn't finish races. Guess what happened in this race, Rod? Sheldon Creed finished the race in 6th place. Sam Mayer did not finish the race in 30th place. And that was basically the handicap. That's how it's gone for them lately. I think that I'll have to look back at the numbers, but I think that's, what is he, 1 in 14 the last 15 races or something ridiculous, and it just continues. So hopefully they'll give it to us again next week, because it'll make I don't care what their stats look like at Phoenix, it's going to make the card again, because it's continued. We're 3 for 3 so far. So even if we lose it next week, we're still coming out ahead of the game.
Yeah, Sheldon Creed 6th place finish was good, but not good enough to beat Sammy Smith, who's overcome years worth of disappointment at Martinsville, ends up finishing in 2nd place, man. Runner up, Sammy Smith. All right, you beat me, Sammy. You got me. The one time I go on Creed, and all of a sudden we're back to square one. So
wait, he finished in Creed's spot? That's weird.
Yeah, he did finish right there. Yeah, it was a 2nd place finish for the car that should have been a not a 2nd place finisher. So yeah, did not hit on Creed over Sammy Smith. A good run by Sammy. I mean, you got to give it to that 8 team. They definitely put it together when they needed it.
Yeah, I mean, Rod, if you tell me at the end of the day that Sammy Smith is going to be the top finishing Chevrolet, it's not going to make me feel bad for betting on Austin Hill at 10-1 to be the top finishing Chevrolet. Also had the Hill top 5 at 3-1. I don't know. He ended up getting, I think he had some damage earlier on, and then just kind of didn't really recover from that. 14th place at the end of the day. You kind of never really heard from him. So is what it is. I don't ever regret putting money on Austin Hill, because he's one of the most consistent drivers. He continues to pay off time and time again. Didn't work out this week. But I mean, Sammy Smith ends up being the top Chevy, and I know that was 2nd and Allgaier was in 5th, but Anthony Alfredo was up there, then in 7th as the next best Chevy. Like, not unheard of for Austin Hill to have made it up there. So doesn't cash, but certainly don't regret having money on him.
Yeah, although one thing I will say about this race, 13 cautions. 13 cautions. So not happy with 13 cautions. So yeah, that just is frustrating. You know, I love me some yellow, but I also love me some Jesse Love. Oh, Jesse Love starts in 4th place. I'm thinking he's got a good Type 5 run in him at +350. Unfortunately, he does not finish the day in the top 5. Instead, he finishes in the top 10. I mean, he finishes right there in, oh, I'm sorry, he finishes in 12th place. My eyes are not loving the fact that it's Love, but yeah, he finishes in 12th place, but he was running in the top 5. I mean, he definitely had a good enough car to sort of stay in contention. He did finish inside the top 5 at the end of stage 1. Didn't do it in the end of stage 2. Kind of lost some track position, but there was a lot of different strategies going on in this particular race. So, I mean, it was easy to get on the wrong side of a strategy and sort of lose track position. So, and then Jesse Love spins out, or Jesse Love pits on lap 136 to try to get some track position. And I mean, it's hard to recover at that point when everybody, because it was just him and Kyle Sieg pitting. And so, yeah, I mean, it's
not
hard.
Great company.
No, not great company at all, but he didn't cash the top 5.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's still a good number for a good young driver that's had a great season. So, Bubba Pollard, top 5. I shouldn't have done it, Rod. It's that 26 car, man. You know how it can go, and it went how it can go. So it was 5-1. I like the short track fact. I like how good we'd seen him be in the 88 earlier in the season. We went into the bet knowing it's not the 88, but what he's capable of. And the car, just sometimes that 26 car is that 26 car, and that's how it went. That's what happened, and yeah, that's what happened to this one, Rod.
Yes, indeed. Well, Riley Herbst. So look, you know how most of my top 5 bets in the Xfinity end up in 6th and 7th. Well, this one ends up 11th and 12th. Riley Herbst, I had him as a top 5 car at +250. He actually finishes in 11th place in this race, not cashing a top 5, but not for lack of speed, not for lack of running inside of the top 5 at points. He ended stage 1 just outside of top 5. And I really wish he ended at the end of stage 2 inside of the top 10, which on all these different strategies could have put him in the top 5, but He did not hang out and hang around there. Lost the track position as well. And yeah, there was no battle for a top 5 for Herbst by the end of the race.
Yeah, man, Herbst he can be hard to figure out which weeks he's going to hit, which weeks he isn't. Somebody who's not hard to figure out when they're going to hit, Rod. Eric Almirola, told you he was going to be the top finishing Chevrolet. Not really. I told him he was going to be the top finishing Toyota, actually. But just in case he wasn't, I thought the Sheldon Creed offered a lot of good value, plus 320. The way that the end of this race went, I don't regret having that insurance, right? Because there was some bumping, there was some pushing, there was some shoving. We end up with all these cautions, all these restarts. Luckily for us, Almirola ran away with it and won, but the Creed bet did not cash. Obviously, Chandler Smith was up there as well. But it was basically, you knew it was going to be those 3 guys, right? Of those 3, Creed had the longest odds. We liked that. Could have easily something else happened there at the end, and Creed cashes this one. So, and he finished 6th again. It's not like he had a bad day. He was up there, and that was even after the speeding penalty, right? Speeding penalty kind of put him out of contention. He was way back there, but all those cautions, he just kept digging and found his way all the way back up to 6th place. So we don't get the speeding penalty, and maybe Sheldon Creed's in victory lane, Rod. Who knows?
Indeed. Yeah, just to go back to that Riley Herbst thing, he did actually start in 4th place on that last restart on 235. So I forgot he was actually in contention for a top 5 then as well.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. I blocked it out of my memory because I was
makes it hurt worse. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I wanted to believe that he didn't have a chance at the end, but he did have a chance at the end.
Speaking of hurting worse.
Oh, son of a Chandler Smith! I'm going to punch you clean in the and Chandler's like listening to this, going, "Go ahead."
Are you gonna punch him or are you gonna bitch slap him, Rod?
Oh my God, that's hilarious. I will softly caress his cheek is what I will end up doing. No, listen, man, Cole Custer, top 3. He ends up finishing in 4th place. Chandler Smith gets into him late to get around him there. Justin Allgaier also, like all of these.
Well, Custer chose violence over your top 3, Rod.
Yeah, you did.
When he lined up on the outside behind Chandler Smith, he said, "Fuck your top 3 bet. I'm getting rid of this motherfucker."
Yep, and he did. He
did
cleaned him
just
clear
that.
out. But unfortunately, Chandler Smith ends up finishing in 3rd, and Cole Custer finishes in 4th because justice does not exist.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't. I mean, this looked like a good call. Obviously, he had a fast car and he was up there near the end, but just doesn't cash. Eric Almirola, top 3, minus 125. This is the same thing as the Eckes thing. It was just these 2 drivers, too good at this track. You knew they were going to be in the mix. You knew that they were probably going to win, but maybe, Rod, it would come down to chaos at the end, which it did in both races. You have the insurance bet at the top 3. Luckily, we cashed the top 3 for both of them and the outrights for both of them, but Eric Almirola, top 3 at minus 125. Really, there wasn't a point at any point where you felt horrible about this bet because it was cash a majority of the day as Almirola dominated the race. So yeah, cashed for us.
There was no question that 20 car was going to win, especially when he started to march back up through the field. You're like, well, that's it. Forget it.
He was fast.
We're not even worrying about this. Just let the 20 go, and we'll fight for the scraps. But I was trying to get coverage on odd cars just in case. Taking winning cars odd. That didn't happen, and that's all right.
Yeah, I had Eric Almirola 3-1. Again, it was the play. Went on this and it worked out. Insurance plays were Hill. Obviously, we talked about him. Brandon Jones, he looked good for a while. Got spun out there late. And then I had tossed out that Sam Mayer championship bet at 50-1. I told you earlier on the show, Rod, he was going to wreck and it wasn't going to go well. But what if he got it done? You'd love to have the 51 position going to Phoenix. Well, he wrecked and that bet is out the window, which is what we sort of thought would happen. But at 50-1, it was worth having because of the talent we know that Sam Mayer is.
Indeed. And then I had Justin Allgaier, who he went behind Almirola. He gave up the outside pole or outside row. I mean, and I get it because Almirola was going to be fast on the inside, and I don't know that Justin had the car to keep up if he was starting on the outside, because we saw like it'd be fine for the first corner and straightaway, but when it came to turns 3 and 4, like if the inside lane had any sort of momentum, you could not clear them on the outside. So I understand what Justin was trying to do in that instance, to probably try to dive bomb Almirola down there in the corners, but it didn't work. Almirola's too strong. He didn't win. So this one had a shot to cash though at the end.
Yeah, it absolutely did, Rod. So not a bad call by you not a bad call by you for any means is what I was looking at. So That leaves us, Rod, with 3 Chevrolets and a Ford in the final 4.
No Toyota.
Austin Hill. Nope.
Call the league officials. This is nonsense.
I have an issue with this, Rod, because all my bets at the preseason were on Toyotas. Austin Hill, AJ Allmendinger, Cole Custer, Justin Allgaier. They'll battle it out on Saturday for the championship, and we'll have the show covering those picks on Wednesday for you.
Spoiler alert. Where's my heart? You know where my heart's at. You know the 16.
7 laps from winning in the spring, Rod, before the piano fell out of the sky and cleaned him straight out. So we'll see if he can get over his Denny Hamlin syndrome and actually win one.
I would love nothing more for him to go into the Cup Series with the Xfinity Series championship. We've seen that before too. We've seen that play several times over. All right, Cody. Well, let's turn our attention to the Cup race. We've already discussed the controversy. Oh, that's how do you say it in British? The
controversy.
Controversy. We've already covered the controversy. Now let's talk about the bets.
Let's talk about the bets, Rod. We started out with the shipbox special. Ryan Preece, not a shipbox this weekend. Took him Group F in Caesars, plus 175 over Suarez, Gilliland, Hocevar. Nice, good day for Preece. Looked like he was going to have a top 10 there at the end. Falls back to 14th place, but easily beat out these other guys. So he was in 14th. Suarez, 23rd. Hocevar, 25th. Gilliland, 26th. So they really were kind of a group back there, but Preece easily won this one. Then Rod had Corey LaJoie underneath 26.5 finishing position. He finished in 35th with the oil pressure issue out of the race. So unfortunately, we missed out on that one.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's what you are when you're the 51 car at that point.
Yeah, that's equipment just a little less reliable than the old Spire equipment is.
Indeed. Speaking of unreliable, Bubba Wallace's tire. That was unreliable, which relegated him to an 18th place finish. Whereas we had Alex Bowman as well as a 13th place finish. So neither one of these guys finished in the top 10. And I don't know, to be honest with you, if either of these guys, well, I know Bubba was definitely not going to finish in the top 10. That guy had problems all day long. I don't know what was up with that car. It wasn't fast. It wasn't in competition for even a top 10 spot for most of the day. He started in 19th, finished in 18th. So only improved one position. But for Bowman, he was alongside those guys that like the pit strategies differed. He was in the top 10. He wasn't in the top 10. He got bounced out in the last few restarts. It was just chaos. So this one sucked to miss, but it wasn't going to hit anyways.
Yeah, unfortunately, and Bubba's been so good here too. So it was sad to see him not be good this week. I had Ryan Preece over Austin Cindric. Just talked about Preece. Good day for him, especially you go into this matchup and you tell me that Preece is going to finish in 14th. I probably would have doubled down on this bet, but I did not have Austin Cindric finishing in 4th on my bingo card, Rod. So yeah, great run by Cindric. I mean, he got it done, and he had stayed. They really played the strategy card hard. Like he stayed out on really old tires, was able to milk it and get to the end there, and he did just that and finished 4th. So shout out to him. But unfortunately, I missed out on that one.
NASCAR needs to look at that Goodyear tire to make sure that there wasn't anything altered with it or that there was anything manipulated.
They did. Denny had mentioned on his podcast that after the race, the Bubba car, they went over and inspected it, which he thought was weird for. They don't generally inspect the 18th place finishing car. I was like, I bet they did.
Well, that's kind of one of the things where they're like, yeah, that's where it's at. So no, inspect Austin Cindric's car though, because I want to know if those tires are all sorts of bad. But all right, Chase Elliott, top 5 plus 150, cash that bad boy, runner up in this race to Ryan Blaney. I mean, look, he led 129 laps of this race. Cody thought he was going to end up winning this race. I think everybody thought he was going to end up winning this race, but damn it all, if Ryan Blaney was just not too fast to pick up the pace and to be able to catch up and pass him. Nobody was passing him for that matter, or nobody was denying Ryan Blaney of what he needed to do this week.
Yeah, nobody was denying Ryan Blaney, Rod. That's a very, very accurate statement.
So yeah, Chase Elliott though, top 5 plus 150, cash.
Yeah, this was a great call by you. I knew Elliott was going to be good. He was good, and unfortunately not good enough for my bets, but good enough for your bet, Rod. That's what matters. So props to you for doing that. Chase Briscoe, top 10, plus 130. Chase Briscoe loves himself some top 10s on Martinsville, Rod. until he doesn't. And him and Priest were both running top 10 late in that race, and then they just, I don't remember exactly what their situation was, if they were on older tires and just slipped back or what, but yeah, unfortunately missed out on this one as he fell to 15th place. Same thing with Alex Bowman, had him at 2-1. Felt really good about both of these bets kind of throughout the day. Bowman starts in 7th place. You're like, okay, running pretty good throughout the race. Ends up finishing at 13th, so just outside of cashing for both these guys, which was highly unfortunate.
Yeah, it kind of was. And what are you going to do? I mean, you're right. Like Priest and Briscoe were both running around, and when people come into pit and when people stay out, it just makes it so difficult, especially at the end, which is why there's screaming race manipulation for William Byron and Kyle Larson staying out to trap Christopher Bell a lap down. Can you honestly, like, you can't point to that and say that's race manipulation. That is strategy.
That's strategy.
That is strategy. There's no way.
Which you could make an argument that it was strategic to have the 1 and 3 cars play defense. That's a defensive strategy, right?
It's a defensive strategy. But yeah, so William Byron and Kyle Larson stay out on old tires there at the end of that race instead of coming in for fresh, which is what I think cost William Byron the opportunity for a top 3, because those tires were just chattering. They were hanging on. He would have been a top 13 car were it not for the I'm sorry. No, he wouldn't, because there's no race manipulation. They weren't able to pass him. They were trying. You saw them ducking out every once in a while to try to, get around him, but they had to back off because they didn't have the angle. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, Byron wasn't a top 3 car at the end of the day. He was a top 3 car most of the day, but when you stay out and try to win your way in, that's the price you pay.
And shout out to them for, they worked this race perfectly, right? 9 stage points in stage 1, 6 in stage 2. We didn't think that they would really be able to point themselves in if we had a new winner, which we did get a new winner, but they still were able to get just enough points, obviously, to well, I think officially he beat him out by 3 points because they dropped Bell back after the late call there. But yeah. These picks, Rod, I got to the dock and took before you, and I should have left them for you to take. But Ryan Priest, top 10 at 4-1. Talked about it, right? He was up there with a chance. Finishes in 14th, unfortunately. Justin Haley at 14-1. I told you, though, that this was just a gut call. I felt like maybe I'd seen something. I didn't see shit, Rod. 29th place for Justin Haley. So luckily, I saw something in Chase Purdy. We hit that in the truck race. Not so much in the Cup race. So, yeah, big offer on the top 10s in the Cup Series, which was pretty rough. But luckily, we had the truck and Xfinity race that carried things earlier on.
Indeed. All right. What manufacturer does Ryan Blaney drive for? I'm going to Dodge. Yes, Dodge. Oh, didn't he?
I believe he was. No, that would have been because they've been out since 2012. He hasn't been in that long. So
that's true. Okay. Wow.
Penske was previously Dodge, but pre Ryan Blaney time.
Yeah. So Ryan Blaney drives a Ford, by the way, which which
the correct answer to that was Ford.
The correct answer was Ford. Therefore, the Ford won the race, thereby finishing as the best drivers between Ford and Toyota. Denny, though, made it interesting, finishing in 5th. But the next Toyota, go ahead and guess what place the next Toyota came in after Denny Hamlin.
Well, I know the answer. Oh, after Denny Hamlin? Actually, I don't know the answer.
Go ahead, just take a guess. Take a wild guess.
Well, it probably was Bubba in 18th.
There you go. Bubba in 18th. The next best finishing
Bell
Toyota
was obviously last lead lap car. Truex had a bad day.
Eric Jones was 19th.
Well, they don't count, but
yeah. Well, Bubba and Eric, they were the top 2 Toyotas after Denny Hamlin. So yeah, if Denny Hamlin would have had the day, continued to have the day that he was having, then we would have been talking about a ton of Toyotas buried down. So Ford, good day for them. Plus, not only that, they had Keselowski, right, riding around there. They had Cindric, Logano, Gragson.
Keselowski led the most laps in the day, so he had a very strong day. Yeah, and I think Keselowski might have even had a shot to win late. I think he was just trying to be very respectful to the playoff drivers, which props to him for doing that, because he definitely could have maybe held off some people at points and chose not to. So top finishing Ford, Rod, I of course gave out Ryan Blaney. Oh wait, no, I didn't. I had Chase Briscoe 550, Josh Berry at 14-1. See, this is why I don't bet on Josh Berry. I would just like to say that 16th place. I don't even remember seeing him in the race. This is why I avoid him, Rod. Briscoe, we talked about it. These bets were never going to cash, unfortunately. You get Blaney wins the race, right? And then Cindric is in fourth, so he had big number. Then you got to go all the way back to ninth for Keselowski, even though he did have a good day. I don't know. The numbers I felt like were good on this, but just a mess here.
Well, and to me, like I said, were it not for a lot of the end of race strategy calls and all of this trying to just make sense out of what being made sense of, you could have had a Priest top 10. You could have had a Priest top 5 if we're being completely honest. But yeah, there's a lot of things that could have played out that didn't because of some late race cautions. We did get 9 cautions in this for 66 laps. So, I mean, it wasn't as if there was not a lack of opportunity for these guys to continue on different strategies. But all right, I had the winning car between 10 and 19. Ryan Blaney drives the 12. That one cashes, which, by the way, 12 is an even number. And even I had that one as well, cashing at 10 at plus 100. Ooh, 10 to 1. That'd have been fantastic. But yeah, both of those winning car numbers hit this time around.
Yeah, great call by you. I had Hamlin at 5 to 1. Look, he recovers all the way for 5th place. That car was fucked up. They fixed it. Starts in the back. Still almost finds a way. So don't, obviously, if you'd have known going in that all that was going to happen, sucks that it did, but I don't regret having him. Chase Elliott at 9 to 1. That was, I think, was a great play. He led a good portion of the race. If it wasn't for that one fucking pit stop, I think he would have probably had a really good shot at this. And then Josh Berry was a stupid bet. Denny Hamlin, 22 to 1 for the championship. Elliott, 50 to 1 for the championship. Obviously, those tickets are over now, but had either of those guys pulled it off, which Elliott almost did. Can you imagine coming into this week with a 50 to 1 Elliott ticket, Rod? Like, that would have been really, really great. So unfortunate that it didn't happen. But I think, even though I gave out 3 championship tickets between the 2 series and none of them actually got here, I think that the strategy on that is correct because of the number and what you would be able to do with that. So they don't cash, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're right. Elliott leads 129 laps of this race. That's a pretty good chunk at the tail end of it. So, yeah, I mean, if it weren't for Ryan Blaney, just literally, I mean, you saw how exhausted this guy was after he got out of the car. Couldn't even do the post-race interview because he was like, I got nothing left. I gave everything I had to finishing this race and to winning this race. So he did, thereby cashing the 6 to 1 ticket that we had on him to win the race. And, yeah, I mean, the handicap on this was simple. It was just, he's got any guy below the cut line was a good bet this weekend because as you saw below the cut line, there was Blaney, there was Elliott, there was Larson, and there was Hamlin. 4 cars in the top 5 below the cut line. Like these guys were not playing around.
Yeah, I mean, playoff drivers, you end up with, so there was 8 playoff drivers, right, Rod? And 2 of them were locked in. So you had 6 left. 5 of them finished inside the top 6. I mean, that's what we knew was going to happen. But yeah, and you called it on Blaney, and shout out to you for that. That leaves us, Rod, very controversially, with 4 drivers remaining. 2 Fords, 1 Toyota, and a bow tie sneaks in as well. Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, both for Team Penske. Tyler Reddick for Michael Jordan in 2311. And William Byron claims the final spot for Chevrolet and Hendrick Motorsports. They'll battle it out on Sunday to be crowned the 2024 NASCAR Cup Series champion. And we'll break it all down for you tomorrow, Rod. Have all of our picks. I'm excited for it.
I'm stoked. There's, again, so much to talk about. I cannot wait to dedicate an episode once the season's over to everything that happened at Martinsville, because we'll just have a Martinsville special where we will just talk about it all.
Go back and relive.
Yes, because I feel like whatever's going to happen over the next week or so out of this is going to, we're going to have to talk about it on a completely separate episode.
And we're going to have, Christopher Bell comes back and wins Phoenix, and so he should have been the champion. It's going to be a whole conversation, Rod.
It will be a whole conversation, but we'll have that in about a week. In the meantime, we got a championship to set up, buddy. We'll do that all weekend long, all 3 series, championship episodes, championship picks, and race picks for sure. So, thanks for hanging with us in this recap. It was a little bit long, but there's a lot to talk about, and we still haven't gotten through it all.
Yeah, exactly. So good weekend, short track racing. Hopefully Phoenix will deliver for us as well, Rod. We'll start breaking it all down tomorrow. Make sure you join us then. In the meantime, follow me on the X at Husker_Zeeb. You can find all my stuff over there. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you guys tomorrow. Nick Fortune, just before we go, I want to say hello to you two. Good afternoon, Hot Rod and Sassy Cody. Keep up the great work. We will, and we'll do that tomorrow, like Cody said. In the meantime, follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here, whether it's Sportsbook Review, trying to get another. I got Joe Mixon as a first touchdown guy a couple of games ago, and then totally did not call a defensive touchdown on the Sunday Night Football game. So we'll try to get it back today. And then, of course, I got the Back Road Championship picks coming up with me, Seth, and Elliot. We love you guys so much. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then, let's go racing and let it ride.